As it's the work of a Morgan City shipyard, barges turn skimmers that are taking a big gulp out of the spill.
50 miles offshore, at the site of the Deepwater Horizon disaster, a skimmer the size of a football field satisfies its healthy appetite.
They give us the general coordinates of where they saw it in the morning, and we just chase it down.
The Big Gulp is the brainchild of Lee Dragna, the owner of a Morgan City shipyard.
The idea of coming out here and helping with the spill, actually come from my son.
Dragna's 10-year-old wanted to be able to fish again.
He told me, he said, "Dad, you can fix anything. You fix everything." I said, "Son, I can't fix this one. I'm sorry." And then for a couple of days, he moped around, and then finally I said, "Okay, I'll work on it."
For Lee Dragna, anyway, it was a matter of simple physics.
And once I started putting pencil to paper, it really wasn't that hard. The process was easy. It just somebody had to do it on a large scale.
So Dragna teamed up with Jamie Cashman, who runs a worldwide fleet of barges.
I don't know, ask me how he did it, but because there's 50,000 people trying to get in to see these guys all day long, and Lee managed to get through there.
BP turned out to be a phone call away.
I called I believe it was the hotline. And,
so calling the hotline actually can produce results?
Yeah,
all right.
Yeah.
Judy Paul, one of the BP executives vetting ideas, got back to Dragna.
The idea did look good on paper, but at the same time, we can't bring out every idea that looks good on paper only. We need ideas that are going to add real value to the mission.
BP agreed to test the barge, but there was a catch. Dragna and Cashman would have to foot the cost of converting the first one on their own dime.
Oh, there's a huge risk. I mean, we have millions of risk.
I always look at the bad first before I look at the good. And there was too much good and no bad in it.
BP set a requirement for the test, which it turns out the Big Gulp exceeded.
It did, and much more quickly than we anticipated it would.
Since then, BP has paid for 7 more barges, 3 big gulps, 4 smaller barges, little gulps. In a storyline involving one failure after another, the company is anxious to show off this asset.
In my opinion, this has been one of the biggest successes we've had, yet the least publicized.
They are now collecting as much as 210,000 gallons of oil daily.
I knew it would work.
A tugboat guides the barge, pushing oil into a funnel. The oil builds up next to a bulkhead.
The bulkhead is right in the middle, and it'll spill over into our containment tank.
From there, it's pumped into holding tanks.
They use gravity as their ally to separate the oil and the water. This first tank, almost half a football field long, is mostly water at that point. The separation takes place in this second tank. Oil is lighter than water. It rises to the top. They open a valve at the bottom. Clean water is discharged, and in the end, they are left with almost completely oil.
98% oil, 2% water.
They can operate in a mile of water or a few feet.
We can turn on ourselves, okay, and that's good for this type of spill.
The stability of it being so wide, it doesn't rock in the waves.
I feel like I'm on land.
That's correct. All the rest of the boats are jumping up and down.
That means they can run in seas of up to 6 feet when the rest of the skimming fleet is idle.
We try to stay out here to be the last one here.
Somebody probably has a concern about, turtles or fish life or dolphins, whatever. What are you doing to them?
Most definitely. NOAA confronted us about that, and what we have is a fish and a turtle excluders on the bottom of our skimmer.
Dragna explains that a vortex of water flows through the bottom, allowing fish to escape. The Deepwater Horizon blowout caught the government and industry flat-footed, exposing the need for more equipment to be stationed permanently.
We're thinking about teaming up and creating some kind of a national response, international response for the oil companies.
So when the day finally comes that the well is killed, that may not be the end of the Big Gulp.
BP was very happy to showcase the Big Gulp, but we should point out that we continue to hear complaints from skeptics about the relative lack of skimmers. That includes William K. Riley, the co-chair of the President's Commission investigating the spill. Riley flew over the site over the weekend, and his reaction was, boy, there's a lot of oil out there. Where are the skimmers? I got an email from a guy today who saw we were doing this story who says, hey, I've got a big skimmer, and they didn't contact me.
So back, yeah.
There are those complaints, but it is a local story, a local success story.
Well, how does this differ from the big A whale?
Well, obviously, if A whale works, and they're still testing it, so we're not going to pronounced that dead by any sense, but it hasn't worked yet. A whale is bigger, so the dimensions of it are different. This thing is big enough that it gets a lot of oil, but it's a tugboat, so it can turn, on a dime. The thing about a whale is that it's tough for a whale to get in the middle of all this. This thing is massive. The 30 vessels right there on site, 70 around it. The A whale takes a half a mile to turn. So it may work in this thing in some ways, or it may work in a different kind of spill, but that hasn't proven itself yet.
And this is all because of a 10-year-old.
This is all because of a 10-year-old who said, "Daddy," and then moped around, and Daddy's out there now collecting a couple 100,000 gallons of oil, not oil and